Um,
All right. We'll soon be starting with the Fireside Chat series with our speakers today. So, thanks to all who are joining in. We at SieDi-Hub, we are celebrating International Women's Month. And this series of fireside chats are basically to celebrate the awardees and the winners of International Women's Day Sheroes. And we have amongst us distinguished speakers today, and with them we will be discussing on topics such as inclusion of women and women holding positions in decision making scenarios. So stay tuned until we start. All right. So, very good evening to all those who are joining in. Welcome to today's Fireside Chat. And we have amongst us today our first speaker, Anthony, and I will quickly invite him to the stage. Welcome, Anthony. Welcome to today's Fireside Chat. Um, so, in today's rapidly changing landscape, I think the need to inclusivity continues to grow. Women comprise around half of the population of the world, and they not just bring their task force but also unique perspectives, talents, and contributions to the global landscape. But despite all of these contributions in terms of manpower by the women, it's very often that they encounter barriers that limit their participation and hinder their full potential. There is a lot of systemic imbalance that they have to face in order for them to keep growing in their journey professionally. And this is not just prevalent in the workplace, but also in education, politics, and even society at large. So, when we inspire others to understand and value women's inclusion, I think we forge a better world. And when women themselves are inspired to be included, there comes a sense of belonging, relevance, as well as empowerment. So, through today's fireside chat, we hope to foster a culture where every woman feels seen, heard, and valued. We also aim to inspire individuals and organizations to recognize the importance of women's inclusion and take meaningful steps towards creating a more equitable society. So, with this context in mind, allow me to introduce our esteemed guests and speakers for today's fireside chat. We have amongst us Anthony Ogbuagu and Ijeoma Thomas-Odia. Welcome, Anthony and Ijeoma. It's a pleasure to have distinguished people like you amongst us today, and we are looking forward to hearing your perspectives. I think before we start officially discussing the issues that are at hand and discussing the topic of women's inclusiveness, let's start with a quick introduction of each other so that our viewers know what are the kind of profiles that they have or we have on stage today for them. I will quickly start by introducing myself. So, I am Dr. Harshita Kaul. I am a technical advisor at SieDi-Hub, and I'm currently based out of Cologne in Germany. I'm a scientist by profession, and that's my day job. And by night and on most of my weekends, I'm a social change maker. I also am very passionate about inclusion, but from the lens of refugee integration with a specific focus on women empowerment and especially young girls and their inclusion into spaces. I'm very happy to now invite Anthony to kindly come up and introduce himself and talk about the amazing work that he does outside of what is his profession. Anthony, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much for having me on your show. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you're absolutely
Okay,
clear.
okay. So, my name is Anthony Ogbuagu, a graduate of electrical electronics engineer, practicing as an instrument engineer and also a process safety engineer. That is my day job, that's my profession. But I'm also very passionate about women inclusivity, very passionate about community development, very passionate about inclusiveness and social welfare. So, on this program, basically, we'll be talking about the other side of what I do, which is Face of Okporo. So, basically, Face of Okporo is a beauty pageant we organize for mainly the ladies, and we also use it as a special purpose vehicle to carry out several community development projects which are majorly targeted at women, teenagers, and adolescents. So basically, for the purpose of this program, we'll be focusing more on Face of Okporo as a brand and the things we've been able to do to, you know, help in improving the lives of our young ladies, young women around us in our community, encouraging them, building them up, and also giving them a purpose. Because most of the time, you find out that a lot of them, not really that they don't know what they want, but how to go about it. So one of the reasons why we do what we do is to actually help them to harness some of their potentials and also point them towards the right direction. So that is basically what we do in Face of Aurora as a brand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thanks for introducing us to the amazing work that you do, and also to give an example of how people can go beyond their day jobs and still follow their passion of reaching out to the community in such a creative way and in such a meaningful way. So, thanks a lot for doing the amazing work that you're doing in Nkporo. And I'm looking forward to hearing more for you. A lot of other questions will come your way very soon.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Now I will take the opportunity to welcome Ijeoma onto the stage and basically give us an introduction to her journey.
Thank you, Dr. Kaul. My name is Ijeoma Thomas-Odia. I am a print journalist. I'm a PR strategist. I am a women's rights advocate and a parenting enthusiast. I currently am the editor of The Guardian Woman for Guardian Nigeria. And what I have done basically with that brand is to ensure that more women are given voices, more women are given that platform to express themselves, give themselves that needed voice that they need to be out there. We even know that Wikipedia recently talked about having very few women, in that space. And of course, that is one of my drive to ensure that more women are speaking up, more women are um, continually bringing out their voice and championing a good cause. I'm also passionate about ensuring that the rights of women and girls are protected. And so I do that with the power of my pen. I continuously put out stories out there that tilts towards issues that affect women, whether it's gender-based violence in any form, rape, any issues that generally are focused around women and young girls and children, empowering them, the ways that, organizations like SieDi-Hub is ensuring that they are putting, the voices of women in any form out there. I ensure that through my platform, I'm giving these women a voice. I'm ensuring that more women are speaking up. And, at the end of the day, we are moving forward, basically. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ijeoma. Thanks a lot for introducing us to the depth and the scale of impact at which that you are able to create through your work. And as you say, you bring voice not just to the women, but to the major issues that women of today face. And I think it's only when a lot of these issues are highlighted that they can be acted upon. So kudos to both Anthony and Ijeoma for doing such great work in their own way. This is the perfect moment for me to introduce the audience to some of the very important themes of SieDi-Hub, which is basically a hub for inclusion and empowerment. And the major focus for SieDi-Hub is to empower the youth. To empower the youth to not just build themselves in terms of capacity, but also train them to be more sensitive towards the issues that affect the society, and also train them to be social change makers of tomorrow. And through its stellar first year, I think SieDi-Hub boasts of having impacted the lives of a lot of youth, not just through on ground, but also through digital training sessions and also conducting policy briefs. And in fact, SieDi-Hub was also recognized for its effort even in the first year of its inception. So this talks a lot about the synergy between the kind of work that SieDi-Hub does and between the kind of work that you both as individuals basically amplify and stand up for. With this perspective in mind, I think I'm really looking forward to delving deeper into some of these issues that are of interest to both us at SieDi-Hub and you both at your, with your expertise. So maybe I will start by posing a first question to Anthony, and then Ijoma, I'll come to you with a question that really I think is a bubbling question in my mind to learn a bit more about your journey. So, to start with, Anthony, it's very interesting that by profession you are an engineer, right? It's a super technical job. So, I wonder what was it that inspired you to take up community-driven work outside of your, typical 9 to 5 day job, and how is it that you came up with establishing this empire, coming up with the idea of holding a beauty pageant, and then also inspiring the people involved or the girls involved into doing community-driven work? This stands out for us, and we just wanted to understand how did you step by step get motivated to establish this at such a large scale.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yeah, I get that I get the question a lot because as an engineer, it's very rare to find an engineer student doing something outside the field, normal day job. So I get this question a lot. So my answer has always been, you know, growing up, I've always had this desire to leave an impact, especially when it has to do with community development. Because at the end of the day, when we are all gone, we can only be remembered by the things we have done, by the impacts we have contributed to our community development. So that has always been my driving force. So that is what gave birth to establishing the Face of Okporo brand. And one other thing is also to showcase. Most of the times, a lot of people have things in mind to do, but how to go about it is always a challenge. So we intended to give a platform to the girl child. When we crown a queen, we have responsibilities that you are supposed to carry out, and those responsibilities come in form of community development projects. We ensure that you must carry out projects, you must have something you are offering to the community to expand it to create awareness. It could be any kind of project as long as it's focused on women, children, adolescents. So we over the years we've had series of projects. We've had part of the girl child, we've had adolescent pregnancy awareness campaign. We've had seminars where we talk to the young girls, the young ladies, try to encourage them and to show them the right way to, go about most of the things they want to do. So it gave us a lot of a very good platform. And also, let me also mention this: I'm an alumni of Yali RLC. So part of the requirements or part of the projects is that you must carry out some of these community development projects. So those are how we're able to come up with this idea to, you know, bring in our girl child, expose them positively. When you have a crown, you become a role model, and then you have a platform to showcase, what you have in you in terms of community development. So this gives a platform to both the organizers, both the ladies involved, and at the end of the day, the community is happy because we see these ladies giving back to the society. From whatever they get, they give back to society, they encourage the young ones. I see people looking up to them as role models too. So that way, everybody wants to have the crown, everybody wants to be like the queen and all that. And it also helps to model their lifestyle, because when you have this responsibility, you tend to stay away from certain things. You tend to model your lifestyle in a way that will be acceptable by the society. So it goes a long way to cause a very kind of chain reaction in terms of positive impact, from the organizers to the winners, then to the community, down to the even those who are just coming up. So it's a very good platform for us to encourage the girl child, because we know, especially when it has to do with community development, you mostly see the male folks being at the top, echelon of the pyramid. But what we were able to introduce, you now see the girls, the ladies also competing and also wanting to, showcase themselves, want to carry out some project or the other, so that they can also be recognized in the community. And they go also as far as not just in the community, they go even outside. We've had from the community, we've had someone even getting the most beautiful girl in Abia State. So that's more like a growth. And from there also, she keeps, showcasing herself and all that. So that's basically what we do in Face of Okoro. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and also sharing the vision and how it came along and also the motivation behind the work that you do. Thanks a lot. I will
Thank
come
you.
back to you with a few more questions, but before that, I will quickly move on to Ijeoma, and I will ask her about how has your journey been, Ijeoma. I'm quite sure that you, being a woman yourself, you might have had instances where you felt that your voice needed to be heard. So, out of curiosity, I would like to know that was it any particular event in your life that inspired you to take such a bold step and channelize it to the efforts at the Guardian, or was it like a more step by step long term vision that you had seen? How has your story been like? I'm very curious to know.
Dr. Carl, thank you. Okay, so no one has ever asked this question, and it's quite interesting to, you know, let me see how I can actually start. Um, I didn't set out to be a journalist because I think I just bumped into it because I did my internship in a media house, and I would write, and the editor would be like, "Did you write this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, you make a good journalist, and that was it for me. So it was like it's been like all my life I have not worked anywhere aside a place where I have to write. So I write for a living, right? So coming into the women's space, I don't know. I think it was having come in contact with a particular NGO here in Lagos. I'm in Lagos, and they are more focused around women and children. And I realized that I have this soft spot for people generally. Like I tell people, I can't be a detective or criminologist or police officer because the moment you start crying and say, I didn't do it, like I'll believe you. So it's that kind of emotion that I have when I see issues around young girls who are raped, young girls who are denied their rights, women whose husbands maltreat them. Those kind of issues can get me, like I won't eat, I can become sleepless, like I lose sleep. Those kind of issues can be quite worrisome. And I know that the only power I have at this point is use your pen. Like you have to expose these people who are doing the wrong things. You have to ensure that you are giving these women a voice. Because if for what I do, if I am not coming out there, to tell people that these things happen, some people just feel like some of these issues are peculiar to them. And so they need to see that these things actually happen to other people, to understand that they can actually speak up and seek for help. So I would not just write. When there are issues that need follow up, I can direct them to the right sources. And then for me, when you ask if there was any experience, I know that growing up, I was quite naive, so even when I know the right thing to say, I'll keep quiet about it. And then when I see another person doing exactly what I should have done, you know, I now feel this urge or nudge. And I begin to see that, especially around women, it has become a thing for us. A lot of women do not have that confidence to speak up, that confidence, to be out there, that take the center stage and be the voice for themselves. They have to hide, under the umbrella of a man, or there has to be a man there. And that's why you see a lot of them, you find women who are molested, women who are raped, women who are denied their rights, and that's why these things strive, because these women do not understand the power that they have in their voice, the power that they have to speak out. A lot of women do not have that confidence. And I realized that for me, the moment I saw that as a problem for myself, and I knew that I am actually in a space where I can fix myself and also help others. So why not? Like, really, why not? So every day is like a concerted effort to ensure that I am, being in that space where I know that I should be, and also telling other women that you need to be confident in yourself. You don't need to be under, someone who do not give you so much value as you should have, to be confident in yourself and be the best of who you should be. So I believe that for a lot of women, which is what I would always preach, speaking up, empowering yourself financially, no matter how little it is, helps you, to stand out, helps you to keeps you empowered. And I know that organizations like SieDi-Hub is also doing, is ensuring that more women are inclusive, more women are empowered, more women are, bringing out, that part of them that makes them, distinct. And yeah, basically.
Joma, and I think thank you for letting us know about your inspiration behind supporting women the way you do through the power of pen, as you say it. So, as a very quick follow up question on what you just described, I want to ask you, how do you think that storytelling and representation in forums like these, in forums like, let's say, the Guardian, how can they be leveraged to inspire inclusion and also to amplify the voices of the common women? Do you have any viewpoints on this? And do you want to give any message to, let's say, the other girls out there who may not have an editorial role or the power of the pen, but what other modes of, or how could they leverage storytelling to basically amplify their concerns?
Okay, so I hope I got that correctly, because the line kept breaking in between. So you're talking about amplifying your voice through storytelling, amplifying the voice of young girls, who are underserved, or in underserved communities, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, so like I say, there are a lot of groups, you know, groups who are focused on, you know, underserved communities, and we see that women and girls are the vulnerable group. So that is why I work with a lot of them. So they expose me to these people. It is through them that I am able to have access to, these girls, these women who need, their voice to be amplified. And we see that another issue is we see that a lot of people or a lot of women do not like to speak up, no matter how much you try. But then, thankfully, I'm a print medium, so it is not like TV where you have to show your face, where you have to, be out there and people see your face. So most times you have to come in a manner where um, you have to make sure that they are comfortable first, because you are trying to help someone, out of a situation, out of a mindset, because that's what I see most times. Most times it's beyond the situation. It is more of the mindset, the mind shift for that girl child or the woman. And so, of course, we see that there are a lot of NGOs who are ensuring that this mindset shift, this empowerment is thriving. More women and young girls are getting the desired education that they need to get. When it comes to understanding what their rights and privileges are, and who they should, you know, how they should own their bodies, how they should, you know, have access to their own finance. These are key issues around, handling women and girls issues. And then again, what I do is to, tell these stories, mostly, human angle stories, human interest stories. When you share these stories, from the angle of someone who has gone through, so much, and then you tell it in a way that it is relatable to other people, definitely you're passing the message out there, right? You're passing the message out there because you are telling a story of, oh, Ijeoma is a young girl from a village in Abia State who has been a 60-year-old girl from a village in Abia State who has been living with her uncle, and then she tells you a story of how she has been molested a few times. Maybe out of, you have to take a lot to get that out. And then, you know, but then again, when we share these stories, we ensure that we protect the identity of these survivors, because they are considered survivors. We protect their identity, because at the end of the day, you don't want them regret they are sharing their stories, because the essence is to help them, give them a voice, and also protect others from getting into such situation.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Ijeoma. I think those were really
that's
interesting
basically
points.
how. That's basically what I do.
Mhm. Thanks, Ijeoma. I'm really sorry for this lag, but we try to manage it in the best way possible. Thanks a lot for
Thank
your
you.
perspectives,
Thank
and
you.
it does indeed, through the power of the digital media. I think indeed it's important to create safe spaces for women to talk about their issues and make sure that it's done in a very mindful manner. And it is the job of the community to basically make sure that this safety of words is taken care of, and that the women feel protected when they have voiced their opinion and raised voices against certain issues that they most likely face. This brings my attention now to Anthony, because I wanted to ask you, Anthony, um, how has your experience been being in the field of women empowerment? I'm sure you must be surrounded with, like, by people who are feminists who talk a lot about active feminism. So, do you want to share any perspectives about what role do men and boys play in championing for gender equality and fostering a more inclusive environment? And in fact, do you have any suggestions on how we can engage them as allies in this journey and make sure that there is a more equitable distribution and equitable representation of both the genders, or rather the other genders that are basically on the stage? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, thank you very much. I will begin from your last question. But there is already a gender imbalance. We already know that the girl child is already being cheated in the society naturally. So that is why people like us were able to come up with something to actually bring the girl child into play, you know, for us to be able to, give the girl child a voice, give her the opportunity, give her the platform. So when they don't have this platform, how will they be able to speak? And most times, when like Ms. Sijoma rightly said, most times they don't want to, they don't want their faces to be seen. But when we are able to set up what we did, and we now have someone like a role model, you see that the ones who are suffering, they are always, it's easier for them to reach out to these girls, share their stories, share their plights. And then with the platform we've created, we find these queens, they will be able to bring these experiences out in the open. And like we also have a program with this adolescent pregnancy. You find out that most adolescents who don't even have, just for little things that could have been provided probably by their parents or by guardians, for lack of it, they fall into some of these unwanted pregnancies and all that. So, but when we create this platform, it became an opportunity for some of them to be able to get these little things. Like when we talk of sharing parts for something as little as pad, you could see a male folk taking a girl to, sleep with them just for part for them because they can't afford it because of how the society is. So when we have this platform, we do this annually, we do it as much as we can, distribute this part so that they don't get to fall into some of these little temptations. So it's very important in society that we create these platforms where the girl child will be able to express herself, if not openly, at least to someone they can trust, to someone they can, believe in, because nobody wants to be seen in the society as, in quotes, being used and all that. So this also gives us that opportunity to, give the girl child a platform. And also on the question of how the journey have been, of course, as a male folk dealing with a lot of ladies, you get to hear so many, talks here and there and all that. But we remain focused because we have our reason, we have our vision, we have our mission statement and all that. So it guides us in whatever we do. What are we doing? We are here to, create that little balance, that the society is lacking, to give the girl child this platform, which is very, very important, because I believe so much that if the girl child is well educated, if she's well informed, it will pass on, she will pass it on even to her children. And who are the children? The children ends up to being the male folks and the female folks. So, building the women, building the girl child, we have more or less built a better society where we have responsible ladies out there, we have responsible girls out there. We find out that we end up having a very responsible society. So there is a very big need for the society to realize that women are filled with lots of potentials. Yes, they might be having those challenges and all that, but with a little push and with a platform, they will definitely excel. For instance, just recently we've had the first Zenith CEO, which is also a lady. And if you look around the banks currently in Nigeria, most 80% of the banks currently in Nigeria now are being headed by the female folks. So, and that's a very good growth if you ask me. So I believe that once they have the right platform, they will excel and they will do well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for sharing your journey and this very unique perspective that you bring to the table, na, about how one single step by a person who does not belong to that particular gender can actually bring the entire community together and bridge this gap, and also is the first step towards, creating a responsible environment in the society. So I think the common themes that stand out from both Anthony and Ijeoma's perspectives is the fact that at the end of the day, it's about identifying the issues that are important, and then making sure that you make yourself be heard. First at a smaller level, and then together, when a lot of such ripples come together, then through the ripple effect, the voice gets bigger and bigger and it gets more amplified. And then slowly, from an individual level, you move to a community level, to a society level, and then at an organization level. And from there to a systemic level at the level of government, where you can actually introduce some of these changes. So it does
Yes, sir.
seem like, there is a huge ladder that needs to be climbed, and it all starts with one single step, one single, let's say, introspective and strong, bold action. And no matter whether it's a boy or a girl, a man or a woman who initiates that step, the idea is to unite together. So, my next question is actually drawing from the perspectives of both of you, and I will ask the same question to both of you to hear what you have to say. My question is that what are some of the practical steps that can be taken to break down barriers and create more inclusive spaces for women, especially from those in the marginalized background, those women who may not have the resources to even know that this is where they can be heard? Do you have a practical step by step, suggestion perspective for them? And maybe we can start with Ijoma and then move to Anthony.
Okay, so you said practical steps. For me, education. Education is key. Like it cannot be emphasized enough. If I was probably not educated, I wonder what would have happened, you know. So it is one thing to be naive, not be able, some people are uneducated and they're very bold. They can speak up, they can, just talk out. But even when you talk out, are you saying the right things? And that's why education is really important. And I see that in Nigeria today, even the basics are becoming, you know, almost free, you know, like you don't have to pay anything to get basic education. People, women, girls especially, don't rush into marriages. It is not, there is no award to it. You don't get a plaque for rushing into a marriage. You don't. There is just nothing. It is when the time is there, when the time gets there, it gets there. And you know, doing it at the right time is key. Get an education, no matter how little. If you can get to a master's degree level, PhD, please do. You need it. You deserve it. The men are doing it. Why can't you do it? Get an education. You know, it is not, they say, if if you think that education is expensive, try ignorance. I don't see how much it feels like if you don't get an education, or I don't see how much it feels like, oh, it is too expensive to get an education. There are very, very brilliant people who get scholarships. So why not? If you get the right education and you get to a level where you will find people who will support you. You will find people who will sponsor you. They are available everywhere. All you should do is be open to getting an education. Be open to, they are NGO, they are, most states also have places where you can, imagine you're from a home where you're not allowed to, maybe you're forced into a marriage or something. There are places you can go to report to. There are centers where they can handle such cases of young girls who are forced into early marriage. Young girls, so far you are ready to speak out, speak up. There are people who are willing to help you. There are definitely people. There's no reason why any young girl in this day and age in 2024 should not have an education, should be rushed in, should get into marriage without having something concrete, standing on your own. Even when you get into marriage, you must have something to offer. You must have something to offer. Just carrying a pregnancy and bearing children is not enough. It's not enough. You must own yourself. Own yourself. Have an identity. As a woman, you should have an identity. Your husband cannot be your identity. You should be able to stand up for yourself and on your own. Every woman should get quality education, just like the man. You should get quality education. Thankfully, like I've always said, or like I've said, there are groups out there. There are a lot of, especially this month of March, there have been numerous empowerment, programs tailored towards, the Women's Month and empowering women, giving them a voice, giving them inclusivity, and I believe that more girls, more women will be empowered to give their voice, to be a part of this movement and change the next generation. You can't continue to have people who are uneducated, women who you just find them like they're just there, nothing to offer, just nothing to offer aside having 7, 8 children, and then you are out there begging. I find a lot of them on the streets of Lagos, and you're wondering, sometimes these children are just all they have. You come out and you just have children, and that's it. And you're begging, looking for who to feed you and all of that. Having children, rushing into marriage is not an option. It shouldn't be. Even men should begin to ensure that when they choose a wife, they should prioritize education for them. I have a colleague who sent his wife to school, even to university level, and she's also taking professional courses. Is his wife. Men should begin to see reason why they should make sure that when their wives come out, they are standing strong. They are proud to say, "This is my wife," and not just having a woman in the kitchen. Anthony has said it. It is more than 80%. Almost all the banks in Nigeria are headed by women today, and they have a good education. Women should be able to stand up now and do the same thing. Don't begin to ask for, because I'm a woman, give me the opportunity. No, you should be able to, when you bring out your CV and the man brings out his, they should be able to say, oh, we think that her CV is better, not because she's a woman. So it is time that more women are taking education seriously. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ijeoma. That was super passionate. And I have to say that every word of what you said resonated so much with me. And I'm pretty sure all the amazing viewers out there would also feel the same. I think the idea of education being the key to women's empowerment, I think, is very true. And the fact that instead of fighting for equality, you work for equality and you make yourself so empowered that you cannot be ignored on the table. So I think this entire approach is really, really, really amazing, and we could sense the passion in your voice. And also, I have to share with you a very interesting anecdote on a joking side. So I have been raised by a single mom, and I had a very similar journey to what you said, that I, won scholarships, funded my bachelor's, master's, and also completed my PhD. Forgot about getting married and marriage and things like this because my mom asked me to be, you know, a feminist and be strong and whatnot. And at this point now, when we look for matches, I'm told that you're too overqualified for the men. So the journey doesn't really get easier for women at any point. And I think this is the irony of how the society works these days, that at one point you are not good enough, and at one point you are really too good. And I think despite all of this, as you said, that it's dependent on the women basically to make their voice heard still and continue on the journey for growth. I'm now curious to hear what Anthony has to share in terms of the step by step ways to break down the barriers and to create more inclusive spaces for women. Anthony, what is your perspective?
Okay, I think this is actually the bulk of this conversation. This is where we leave theory and then we go into the practical. What are the step by step of how to actually cause a change in how women are being perceived in society. I think the responsibility goes to almost everyone in the society, from the women themselves to the government to the community, and including institutions that are scattered all over the churches, the mosques, the religious bodies. Everybody has a role to play when it has to do with the practical steps to take. And I would like to agree with Ijeoma, because first of all is education. That is why on our parts as a brand, we have a program we call From Streets to School. And that program, what we'll do is we'll go to the community, we'll pick children from the streets, 2 years, 3 years, primary, secondary, we'll pick them, we'll take them back to school, we'll provide them with study materials, register them. Sometimes it's as little as 1,500 to register these children, and their parents will not be able to afford it.
Mm.
So we'll do this, we'll pick them, a good number of them, and then we send them back to school, give them materials, because that's actually the basics. That is the first points of call. That is where it begins from. Because once they don't have the education, they have already been cheated. So that is why, first of all, let them have that access to education. And then when they have that access, it should also be quality education, no matter how, because we have a lot of schools all over the place, but not everyone offers that quality education. So it's very important, and that is where the government comes in terms of their own rules. We must ensure that there is quality education, should be accessible to all kinds of persons, to the female child, to the male child. Everybody should have equal opportunity, because I know that back then there used to be discrimination in terms of who should be registered in a family. But thank God it's no longer like that. Both the male, the female, so everyone have equal opportunity to excel. Everyone has equal opportunity in the society. And in fact, it's even beginning to look like there are more organizations that are more women focused these days than male. Because there is hardly anybody who talks about the male child. So it makes it actually presents a lot of other opportunities to the female folks to actually capitalize on these different opportunities that have been presented itself. Because we'll talk about practical steps from education. Once you have this education, then you also acquire skills. If you can't afford to further your education to maybe the master's level, the doctorate level, then you go for skills. Because one of the major causes of should I call domestic violence, or maybe abuse or denying of opportunities for the female folks, is actually over dependence on the male counterpart. When you don't have something you're doing, you become too dependent that anybody can actually tell you anything. So, but when you have the education, you have a skill, and you can make a living for yourself, nobody will order you around. Like, at least it will be very, very minimal. It will be reduced to a very, very high extent. But when you are too dependent as a lady or as a woman, you expose yourself to so many ills in the society. So my practical steps or practical approach I would recommend is, first of all, get education to the level you can afford. From there, you get a skill that can sustain you. From there, oh shit, then you can now proceed to other. Uh, there are so many other opportunities that are out there. Sorry, I think we are in Nigeria, so there's a break.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
but we can still hear
when you
you.
have this
So
education,
Hear you.
all right, when you have the education, you have the skill, you explore there are so many numerous opportunities for the ladies out there in the society that they can actually grab and better themselves. So there's already that practical provision for you as a lady if you want to, better yourself. You get the right information, get the right education, and then you can proceed from there. Thank you.
thank you, Anthony. Again, a very passionate answer and a very well balanced answer, because we build up on, of course, the importance of education, but also talk about the quality of education that is important, something that is important for policymakers to know. And at the same time, the suggestion from both Ijeoma and Anthony is to start building up on your skills, identifying what your strengths are, and trying to build it up further, further, further. You need to know what you bring to the table, and not just professionally but also personally. You need to know what you stand up for and what you offer in a relationship and in a professional setting. And last but not the least, both of them mentioned that financial independence is very important. You do not have to be dependent on anybody for pursuing your dreams, and at the same time for investing in yourself and your future. And I think this is the first practical or the biggest practical step towards freedom and towards asking for inclusion. So thanks a lot, Anthony and Ijoma, for this. We have a few minutes left until the fireside chat ends. So I think my question again, last question to both of you is, we touched upon a very diverse set of questions, right? Where we understood at an individual level what can girls do in order to feel empowered, as well as at a societal level, what can society do to feel empowered? What can the government do to make more inclusion for women? Now, my question to both of you is that how can organizations like SieDi-Hub basically contribute to continue this narrative? And how can NGOs basically contribute towards creating these safe spaces and inclusive spaces for women? What can SieDi-Hub contribute more? This is something that I would like to possibly ask. Maybe we can start with Ijeoma, if that's okay.
Okay, so creating safe spaces for women. What should NGOs do? Um, for me, basically, is to, you know, create a community for these women. I'm sure, or I'm hoping that, if phones are not available, like create a community where you can share vital information with these women or these girls. Or alternatively, in their communities, train people who are who you find very upright, and then they head small groups in their communities, because these women and girls need to be constantly reminded about the power that they possess as women. Women are strong, aside being beautiful. They are strong, you know, they hold so much power. They can bring so much to the table that they don't even understand. And I believe that, when they are in the right space, when they're in the right circle, they are constantly reminded of how much power they possess, it will bring enormous changes. So I'll urge, organizations like SieDi-Hub, please create small groups, in communities. It can be in form of, if these girls are out of school, it can be in form of, community girls hangouts, where they speak their language, they know themselves, and for each gathering, a key issue is discussed. And when women feel that they can trust who they speak with, they should also be reminded, because even as I am, there are groups we belong to, and we tell ourselves things like, this is a safe space, a no judgmental space. So when women are reminded that they will not be judged by whatever it is they're sharing or what they're going through, then they are more at ease to share whatever concerns that they have. And of course, these NGOs have the right places that they can, they have the right places that they can go to handle some of these issues if it is not something that can be settled in these groups. So it is very pertinent for young girls to belong to the right set of groups, and not just hanging out with the boys and just not doing the right things. Right.
Mhm. Thank you. Thanks, Ijeoma, for sharing this and very beautifully summarized as well. Thanks for reminding our female viewers that they are not just beautiful, but they are as well strong. They already possess an inherent power, and all they need to do is look within and harness it. And how can we support
Right.
each other in doing it? In by creating local communities where we all feel safe to share our strengths and also be vulnerable with each other and basically help each other grow. Beautifully, beautifully summarized, Ijoma. Thanks a lot. Anthony, are you here with us? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. So, what would your thoughts be on the similar lines of what CD Hub can do or what NGOs can do to create inclusive spaces for women?
Okay, I believe in continuous advocacy.
Mhm.
A person who doesn't find his voice today might do that tomorrow. So there is no need to, give up on that. A, a platform like City Hub should continue to advocate, should continue to speak out, continue to call on the girl child, continue to, just continuously be in their faces, because maybe I may not have the courage to speak today, tomorrow I might have the courage to speak. So I believe in continuous advocacy, and then there is need to also optimize the social media space, because what we see mostly now on social media is just basically the wrong things. But if we have more of these advocacies, being put out there in social media, at least let them always be there. Like I said, continuous advocacy. People will tend to, speak up when they see that these NGOs are not giving up on them. So I believe that most of these NGOs should continue to, you know, advocate and continue to present themselves, continue to provide opportunities for the young ladies out there to participate in community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks a lot. And it's very interesting that you laid emphasis on persistence and continuing advocacy. And it's really beautiful to hear that you think that people may not have voice today, but continuous efforts and resilience and persistence can actually give them a voice tomorrow. So we never know when the magic happens. We just have to keep putting the effort. And I think that is a very good pointer for NGOs, for us at SieDi-Hub to act on and to be mindful about. So I think in total, today's entire conversation was very complimenting because both of you come from your own individual experience sets to bring your unique perspectives to the table. But what we realize is that we all align on a very common theme of self empowerment, connecting to the power within and bringing your skills to the table, and then at the same time, the community contributing to creating a space for women to feel heard in a way that it can then be amplified. It's very interesting to hear what you all had brought to the table. And before we call it a close, I would ask for some final concluding remarks from both of you to conclude today's fireside chat. So, if there is one message that you would like to give to our viewers, what would that be? Maybe we start with Anthony this time and we close with Ijeoma's remarks at the last. So, Anthony, over to you.
My closing remark will be very simple: invest in women, and we'll have a better society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. Ijeoma?
So for me is, women keep supporting women because I hear women do not support women. I don't believe it. It has not happened in my space. So I would say as women, we should keep supporting each other because we are going there, we are getting there, and we are almost there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ijeoma. Thank you. Thanks, Anthony, and thanks, Ijeoma, for bringing such positive energy and such diverse perspectives to the table. It was lovely talking to you. And I'm sure, as is very visible through the reactions and comments that we have, that our viewers have also enjoyed the chat. So, dear viewers, thanks for tuning in. This was Anthony and Ijeoma for you today, talking about counting her in and creating inclusive spaces for women in the corporate setup and in society. If you would like to continue being associated with SieDi-Hub, please follow us on social media and write to us if you would like to volunteer with us or be a part of us. And as Ijoma said, let's keep doing our bit in supporting each other. And through our own individual efforts, one day, hopefully, we will be able to see the change or be the change that we always wanted to be. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. And I wish all of you a very nice evening. Bye bye. That's our